Hey, so I'm doing my project over declarative memory and more specifically like how the hippocampal region plays a role in declarative memory. So declarative memory is a type of memory that can be like consciously recalled. So this means that once a memory has been formed, a person can like retrieve it and bring it to their consciousness, and they like theoretically would be able to verbalize that. So this doesn't include things like procedural memory, which are memories that don't have to be in the consciousness, they can be in the unconscious. So this could be things like the muscle memory of being able to ride a bike or play an instrument, for example. The steps of declarative memory include like encoding, consolidation, and retrieval. So the hippocampal formation is like very heavily involved in this process, and this region is generally considered to be made up of the the hippocampus proper for one, which has the cornu ammonis, which and there's four of those. What's debated if there's four. Some say that the cornu ammonis or CA4 is part of the dentate gyrus, which is the other part of the hippocampus proper. And then there's also the subiculum and the interrenial cortex, which are a part of the hippocampal formation, and those are the parts that are generally agreed on. So it's necessary to first like understand the role that the hippocampal formation plays in like the processing of declarative memory, and just like being able to understand like why I'm proposing a study on this topic. So the study with HM, or like the case study with him, where he had a brain lesion in his brain that affected his hippocampus as well as his amygdala, and it was the parahippocampal gyrus. Those are the three areas that are affected by that lesion, and it was often used to state the importance of the hippocampus in declarative memory. But because there were those other areas that were affected, it alone was not enough to say that the hippocampus is like the thing for declarative memory or for memory in general. But there is later a study that was kind of inspired by HM's study, because he like led, or the information that was gained from the case study done on HM was able to kind of direct the future studies in this way of like this area of the brain. And there was a man who goes by, for studies purposes, goes by RB, and he had a brain lesion that was contained solely to the CA1 region of the hippocampus. And this is like it's like referred to almost as like the bottleneck of like the hippocampus for information flowing in just like one direction. And because of this like severely impacted the function of the hippocampus, and he did have issues or significant issues with his memory, or like being able to form and recall new memories. Because of this, there was two main kind of findings that were able to be made whenever like comparing the two studies. First was that damage to the hippocampus by itself is able to lead to like a clinically significant impairment in one's memory, but also like looking at the two studies together, we were able to see that the areas around the hippocampus also play a role in memory. And so more specifically, that like in HM's case, the parahippocampal gyrus is a part of that hippocampal formation that's involved in memory, and that's why his memory deficits were so much greater than RB's, just because he had that additional evidence that like further agitated his deficits. And as well, like a general understanding of the hippocampal formation and like how it works is needed to understand the study I'm going to propose. So first off, the way that information gets into the hippocampus is through something called the perforant pathway. This sends sensory information into the it sends it into the hippocampus pretty much And this starts where the entorhinal cortex is and ends in the dentate gyrus, which is part of the hippocampal or proper. And then from here, once the signals have been sent, they're sent from the dentate gyrus to the CA3 region of the hippocampus, and then to the CA1 region of the hippocampus. And the CA1 region of the hippocampus then sends it to the subiculum, which is a lot of times referred to as like the main output center of the hippocampus, but that's debated. I saw a couple studies that talked about different arguments for that. But then there are two main roles of the hippocampal formation that I'm going to be talking about, which were in the encoding and recall stages of declarative memory. So the first of the two stages, encoding, involves turning like external stimuli into memories. And there were studies that have been done with like neuroimaging that shows during encoding tasks that the hippocampus was activated during those tasks. So it shows that it is like involved in encoding. And then the second stage that I'm going to be talking about in this study is the recall stage, which is where you can retrieve information and bring it back into your consciousness. And it's been stated that the hippocampus is essential for this process whenever retrieving episodic memory specifically. And episodic memories are a type of declarative memory, as they're like one that can be recalled and then like talked about and verbalized, and it's like in your consciousness. So for my study, just kind of the background or like the rationale for it is that the corneomonas regions of the hippocampus are known, like they're known to be involved in the encoding and recall of memories, but the information on these specific areas is still minimal and still theoretical. So there's like theories for which one does, or like just some information, but I would like to be able to help contribute to that information. I struggle to find like more information on these regions other than their role in like the flow of information through the hippocampus, but we know that they are a part of the encoding and retrieval process to some degree. And like more specifically, we know that the CA3 area is involved in like associative memory, which is like whenever you can like associate two things together that aren't necessarily like related. So this could be like a name with a face. Like technically those two don't go together, but you can realize that like this name goes with this person's face. But that's kind of what associative memory is. So I'm planning on having a study that looks at the brain activity of different areas of the hippocampus specifically during different types of declarative memory. And I'm hypothesizing that there are going to be different levels of activities in different part of the hippocampus for the different tasks. So I'm wishing to have around 150 healthy adults that don't have any like issues with their memory, that are between the ages of 18 and 40. And that's like the only limitations I have for the participants. And they're going to be asked to participate in declarative memory tasks. More specifically, they're going to be asked to do episodic and semantic memory recall tasks. And then, it's just the recall that I'm focusing on for this study. So for the episodic memory task or recall task, they're going to be asked to walk the researchers through a very specific life event that they remember, or just like a day that they remember. So for example, like one could walk the researchers through the day that they graduated from high school, and during this they're going to be in an fMRI machine that will be able to see the areas of activation during the hippocampus. And then the semantic recall memory task is going to be similar. They're going to be prompted with just facts that they need to recall. So it could be like name the current US president, or name the capital of the United States, or like what is 2 + 2. And then again, they'll be in the fMRI machine that'll be able to see the areas of activation in the brain. And you should be able to see different levels of activation within the different corneomonas, or corneomoni, I guess. But yeah, that is my study. Thank you.